Let me back up. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 34, and for the past decade, my family has treated me like the daughter who couldn't get anything right. My brother Jason, 3 years older, was the golden child. Wharton MBA. Management consultant at McKinsey. Married to a corporate attorney. Everything he touched turned to gold according to my parents. Me. I dropped out of my business degree junior year at University of Denver to pursue some ridiculous real estate thing, as my mother described it. That was 2013. I was 22, idealistic, and absolutely certain I saw something everyone else missed. "You're throwing your life away," Dad said when I told them. We were at Sunday dinner at their Aspen vacation home, one of the 9 properties my grandfather had built his fortune on before passing in 2008. "Your grandfather would be ashamed." Jason smirked from across the table. "Let her fail, Dad. She needs to learn." I learned all right. Just not what they expected. My grandfather, Robert Mitchell, had been a mining engineer who pivoted to real estate in the 1970s. He bought mountain properties across Colorado when they were affordable. Aspen, Vail, Breckenridge, Telluride. By the time he died, his portfolio included 9 premium properties worth roughly $18 million combined. He'd structured everything in a complex family trust, with my father as trustee and equal distribution planned among his grandchildren. But there was a problem. The trust had specific language about maintaining and improving the properties. My father, focused on his medical practice, had done the bare minimum. Properties deteriorated. Rental income declined. Property taxes went unpaid multiple times. Insurance lapsed twice. Jason was too busy climbing the corporate ladder to care. "Just sell them all and split the cash," he'd say at every family meeting. I saw opportunity where they saw burden. In 2013, fresh out of college with $47,000 in savings from summer jobs and some smart stock picks, I approached my father with a proposal. "Let me manage the properties. I'll handle everything. Maintenance, tenants, improvements. I just need you to sign management agreements." Dad waved dismissively. "Sarah, you don't know the first thing about property management. Then let me learn on properties that are already struggling." He actually laughed. "And when you fail, when tenants sue us, when the properties deteriorate further, then I'll cover any losses from my own savings." That got his attention. 3 weeks later, he signed limited management agreements for 3 of the problem properties: a small Breckenridge condo, a Vail townhouse with foundation issues, and an Aspen cabin that hadn't been rented in 4 years. "6 months, Dad said. "Prove you can handle these 3 and we'll talk about the others." Jason thought it was hilarious. "She'll be bankrupt by Christmas," he told Mom. "Maybe it'll teach her to finish college." I worked 16-hour days. I learned plumbing, basic electrical work, and drywall repair from YouTube. I negotiated with contractors, studied market rental rates, and created detailed marketing plans. By month 4, all 3 properties had paying tenants. By month 6, I'd increased their combined monthly rental income by 340%. Dad was impressed but cautious. "Hey Sarah, keep going." Over the next 2 years, I systematically transformed every property in the portfolio. I fixed the foundation issues. I renovated outdated kitchens and bathrooms. I implemented dynamic pricing strategies for short-term rentals. I built relationships with property management companies and luxury travel agents. By 2016, the portfolio's annual rental income had increased from $340,000 to $1.8 million. But I wasn't just managing properties. I was studying them. I analyzed every market trend, every zoning change, every development proposal in Colorado mountain communities. I attended county commission meetings. I networked with developers, attorneys, and bankers. And I saw what was coming. In 2017, I approached my father with detailed market analysis. "Colorado mountain real estate is about to explode," I told him. "Remote work trends, cryptocurrency wealth, California exodus. It's all converging. These properties will triple in value over the next 5 years." "That's speculative, Sarah. It's data-driven analysis. But here's the thing, the trust structure is vulnerable. The language is vague. If someone challenged it in court, claimed mismanagement, they could tie everything up for years." Dad's face paled. "Are you threatening to sue?" "No. I'm offering to buy the properties. All 9. Fair market value based on 3 independent appraisals. It protects you from legal vulnerability, gives you and Mom immediate liquidity, and transfers all future risk to me. Jason, who was visiting that weekend, burst out laughing. You want to buy $18 million in real estate? With what? Your rental management fees. I smiled calmly. I've been saving everything. Plus, I have financing arranged. That was partially true. I had $380,000 saved. And I had something better than traditional financing. I had data, relationships, and a plan. Over the next 8 months, I executed the most complex financial maneuver of my life. I approached private lenders with my track record and market analysis. I structured a deal where I'd purchase the properties for $18.5 million, slightly above appraisal to ensure my father agreed, using a combination of seller financing from my parents, private loans, and a small business loan backed by the property's rental income. My parents would receive $8 million immediately and hold a $10.5 million note at competitive interest rates, secured by the properties themselves. They'd get steady income, I'd get the properties, and Jason's inheritance would be protected through an equivalent cash settlement from the trust's other assets. Dad's attorney reviewed everything. This is actually brilliant, he admitted. Sarah's taking all the risk, you're getting guaranteed income, and if she fails, you get the properties back. In March 2019 we closed. I was 27 years old and owned 9 Colorado mountain properties worth $18.5 million, carrying $16.8 million in debt. Jason called me that night. You'll be bankrupt within 3 years, he said. Properties are liabilities, not assets. You just bought yourself a very expensive prison. Maybe, I replied. Time will tell. Time told a very different story. Between 2019 and 2024, Colorado mountain real estate didn't just appreciate, it exploded. COVID accelerated remote work. Cryptocurrency millionaires flooded mountain communities. California and Texas residents relocated in droves. My Aspen properties alone tripled in value. But I didn't just ride the appreciation wave. I actively transformed every property. The Breckenridge condo became a luxury short-term rental generating $180,000 annually. The Vale townhouse, after a $400,000 renovation, became a corporate retreat rented by tech companies for $8,500 per week. The Aspen cabin that hadn't rented in years? I converted it into a $2.1 million primary residence for a Tesla executive. I refinanced strategically, pulling out equity to pay down high-interest debt while interest rates were low. I sold 2 properties at peak valuations in 2021, netting $4.7 million in profit. I used that capital to acquire 3 additional properties in emerging markets: Crested Butte, Steamboat Springs, and Pagosa Springs. By 2024, my portfolio had grown to 12 properties valued at $67 million, with remaining debt of just $12 million. My net worth, $55 million. Annual rental income, $4.8 million. I never told my family any of this. They knew I managed properties. They knew I'd bought the original 9 from the trust. They assumed I was struggling, keeping her head above water, as Mom described it. Jason's career, meanwhile, had plateaued. He'd made partner at his consulting firm but grown disillusioned. In 2022, he'd left to start his own business advisory firm. It wasn't going well. He'd burned through his savings, maxed out credit cards, and recently asked my parents for a $200,000 loan. Which brings us to last month. Dad called a family estate planning meeting at his Denver home. Your mother and I are getting older, he said over the phone. We need to finalize everything. The note Sarah holds, Jason's situation, the remaining trust assets. I drove down from Summit County, where I'd bought myself a modest cabin as a primary residence. I deliberately drove my 2018 Subaru. I wore jeans and a fleece pullover. I carried a simple canvas bag with a laptop and some papers. Jason arrived in a new BMW M5, wearing a $3,000 suit. He'd brought Rebecca, his attorney wife, for support. We gathered in Dad's study, a wood-paneled room lined with law books and family photos. Mom brought coffee. Dad opened his laptop with his estate attorney on video call. Let's start with the properties, the attorney began. Sarah purchased 9 properties from the family trust in 2019. However, Roberts will contain specific language about equal distribution among grandchildren. Jason has raised concerns about whether that sale violated the trust's intent. I kept my face neutral. What concerns? Jason leaned forward. Grandfather intended those properties for all of us equally. You manipulated Dad into selling them to you at below market rates. I paid $18.5 million based on 3 independent appraisals, I said calmly. The transaction was approved by Dad's attorney and documented thoroughly. That was 2019 values, Jason snapped. Those properties have appreciated significantly. You essentially stole our inheritance. Rebecca nodded. We've consulted with our own attorney. There's a strong case that the sale violated the trust's fiduciary duty to beneficiaries. Mom reached over and patted Jason's hand. We just want what's fair, honey. Dad looked uncomfortable. Sarah, Jason raises valid points. Perhaps we should discuss some kind of adjustment. Adjustment? I kept my voice steady. Dad, you received $8 million cash and hold a $10.5 million note paying you 5.5% interest annually. That's $577,500 per year in guaranteed income. The note is current. I've never missed a payment. But the properties are now worth much more, Jason insisted. That appreciation should be shared. I took all the risk. I carried the debt. I managed everything. The appreciation is the reward for that risk. Jason's face reddened. You took advantage of our parents' trust. I presented a fair offer that their attorney approved. Enough. Jason stood up. Here's what's going to happen. Those 9 Colorado properties that were part of Grandfather's trust? They're legally mine as the eldest grandson. Grandfather's will specifically states preference to the eldest male heir for the mountain properties. I've had it reviewed. The trust sale was invalid. He pulled out a thick document. This is from our attorney. The original trust language supersedes any subsequent sale. These properties, the Aspen Cabin, the Vale Townhouse, the Breckenridge Condo, the Telluride Lot, the Steamboat Springs Chalet, and the 4 others, they're legally mine. End of discussion. Mom smiled proudly. Jason's right. Robert always intended the eldest to maintain the family legacy. I looked at Jason carefully. You're claiming ownership of 9 specific properties? That's correct. And I'm giving you 60 days to vacate and transfer the deeds. Jason, you realize those properties are no longer. I don't care what renovations you did or what debt you added. The properties themselves belong to me per the trust language. My attorney will be filing paperwork Monday. Rebecca added, we're being generous with 60 days. Legally, we could demand immediate possession. I set down my coffee cup. Dad, do you have your laptop there? Dad nodded, looking miserable. Can you pull up the Boulder County Property Records website? Just Google Boulder County Assessor Property Search. Sarah, this isn't relevant, Jason started. Humor me. Dad, are you on the site? Dad nodded, typing slowly. Good. Now search property owner records. Type my name, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. The room fell silent except for Dad's typing. I see. Wait. Dad's face went pale. There are multiple entries. How many? 12 properties. Boulder County, Summit County, Eagle County, San Miguel County. His voice trailed off. Sarah, what is this? Read the property addresses, Dad. His hands shook as he scrolled. 2847 Aspen Grove Lane, Aspen. That's the cabin. 156 Mountain Vista Drive, Vale. That's the townhouse. 892 Peakview Circle, Breckenridge. He looked up, stunned. These are grandfather's properties. Keep reading. Owner of record, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Deed date, March 15, 2019. All 9 properties. He scrolled further. And 3 more. Properties in Crested Butte, Steamboat Springs, Pagosa Springs. All owned by you. Jason's face had gone from red to white. That's impossible. The trust sold those properties to me in 2019, I said calmly. Legally. With your parents' attorney's approval. I've owned them outright for 5 years. But grandfather's will was superseded by the trust modification agreement Dad signed in 2018, prepared by his estate attorney, which explicitly allowed for sale of trust assets to family members at fair market value. I pulled out my canvas bag and removed a bound document. I have the complete legal file here. The sale was properly executed, recorded with every relevant county, and the deeds are in my name. Not the trust's. Not Dad's. Mine. Rebecca grabbed the document, flipping through pages. Her face went pale. Those 9 properties Jason's claiming? I continued. I don't just manage them. I own them. Every square foot. Every roof. Every foundation. Every appliance. When you threaten to take possession, you're threatening to commit felony trespassing against privately held real estate. This can't be legal, Jason whispered. Dad, pull up the Eagle County records now. Search the Vale Townhouse specifically, 156 Mountain Vista Drive. Dad's hands trembled as he typed. Owner, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Purchase price, $2.1 million. Current assessed value. He stopped breathing. Current assessed value, $6.8 million. Now search the Aspen Cabin. 2847 Aspen Grove Lane. More typing. Purchased $3.2 million. Current value, $11.3 million. Dad looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Sarah, the total value here is approximately $67 million across all 12 properties, I finished. I own $67 million in Colorado mountain real estate, purchased through legitimate transactions, improved through my own capital and effort, and appreciated through favorable market conditions. Mom's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. No one moved to clean it up. Jason found his voice. You don't have $67 million. You're right. I have about $55 million in equity. I carry roughly $12 million in debt across various properties, all performing loans with excellent terms. That's impossible. Jason's voice rose. You dropped out of college. You were managing rental properties. You can't have. I built it, I said simply. While you were earning your MBA and consulting fees, I was learning property law, construction management, market analysis, and strategic finance. While you were climbing the corporate ladder, I was renovating kitchens at midnight and negotiating with contractors at dawn. While you assumed I was failing, I was building a real estate portfolio that generates $4.8 million in annual rental income. Rebecca was still staring at the documents. These are legitimate. The deeds, the title insurance, the legal descriptions, it's all proper. Of course it's proper. I hired the best real estate attorneys in Colorado. I paid for 3 independent appraisals to ensure fair market value. I structured the financing to protect my parents while giving me operational control. Everything was done correctly. Jason started scrolling frantically on his phone. I'm calling our attorney right now. Call whoever you want, I said. But understand this. The 9 properties you claimed as legally yours have been legally mine for 5 years. The trust no longer holds them. Your grandfather's will no longer governs them. And threatening to take them constitutes harassment against a private property owner. Dad finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That the properties you thought were barely breaking even were actually generating millions? That your daughter, the one who threw her life away, built something real while everyone assumed she was failing? We didn't assume, Mom started. Yes, you did. Every Sunday dinner, every family gathering. Poor Sarah, still managing rental properties. If only she'd finished college. If only she'd gotten a real job. I heard it all. I just stopped correcting you. Jason's face had regained some color, but now it was fury. You manipulated us. You bought those properties knowing they'd appreciate. I didn't know anything. I analyzed data, took calculated risks, and worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. I paid fair market value. Actually, I paid slightly above market value to ensure Dad's attorney would approve. I assumed all the risk, all the debt, all the liability. The appreciation was my reward for that risk. But we're family. Mom's voice cracked. You should have shared this with us. Shared what? My success. Like Jason shared his struggles? Like you shared your disappointment in me. Kept my voice even. I've paid every note payment to you on time. $577,500 per year, for 5 years. That's $2.8 million in interest income you've received. The principal is still protected. You've profited significantly from our arrangement. That's not the point, Dad started. Then what is the point? Jason walked in here claiming ownership of my properties based on a misreading of trust language that no longer applies. He threatened to evict me from real estate I legitimately own. And you all nodded along because it sounded right, because Jason's the successful one and I'm just Sarah, the college dropout managing rental properties. The room fell silent. Rebecca spoke carefully. Sarah, I apologize. We clearly didn't understand the full situation. The trust language Jason referenced. We were working from an outdated document. You were working from assumptions, I corrected. You assumed I was poor, struggling, barely managing. So when Jason wanted those properties, it seemed reasonable that he should have them. After all, what could I do with them? Jason slumped in his chair. I thought. I needed something. The business isn't working. I've got debt, we've got expenses. So you tried to take what's mine. I didn't know it was yours. I thought they were still in the trust. You didn't ask. You assumed. And you walked in here ready to take from your sister without even checking the basic legal facts. Dad was still staring at his laptop screen, scrolling through property records. The Telluride lot. You sold it? In 2021 for $3.9 million. Bought it from the trust for $1.4 million in 2019. Used the proceeds to purchase the 3 new properties and pay down debt. And the Steamboat Springs Chalet? Also sold 2021 for $2.8 million. Original purchase, $900,000. You made. Dad did mental math. You've made millions in profit. I've made strategic investment decisions that appreciated significantly. Yes. Mom was crying softly. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at her directly. Because every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. Every time I mentioned a renovation or a good rental season, you'd ask when I was going back to college. You didn't want to hear about my success. You wanted me to fail so I'd come back and do things your way. That's not true. Mom, 3 years ago at Christmas I mentioned I'd had a good year with the properties. You literally said, "That's nice, dear," and then spent an hour praising Jason's new BMW. Last Thanksgiving I tried to explain a refinancing strategy that saved me $180,000 annually. Dad asked if I'd thought about getting my real estate license, to make it official. Dad's face flushed. We didn't understand the scope. You didn't ask. Neither did Jason. All of you were so certain I was the failure that you never considered I might be the success. Jason had his head in his hands. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed. No, you shouldn't have. But more than that, you shouldn't have walked in here demanding my property. You want to talk about family? Family doesn't threaten legal action to steal what their sister built. Rebecca was packing up her briefcase. We'll withdraw any claims immediately. Jason, we need to go. Wait. I reached into my bag and pulled out another document. Jason, you mentioned needing help. Your business isn't working. Sarah, don't, he started. I'm not mocking you. I'm stating facts. You need capital. You need stability. And despite everything today, you're still my brother. I slid a document across the table. This is a property management proposal. I need someone to handle day-to-day operations for 3 of my properties, showing units, coordinating with contractors, handling tenant issues. It's actual work, 30 to 40 hours per week, salary of $95,000 annually plus performance bonuses. Jason stared at the document like it might bite him. I'm not offering charity. I need competent help and you have relevant skills. But understand this. If you take this job, you work for me. You report to me. You follow my systems. This isn't family helping family. This is a business arrangement between an employer and an employee. I can't work for my little sister, Jason whispered. Then don't. Keep your struggling consulting firm. Keep asking mom and dad for loans. But stop pretending your pride is worth more than your family's financial security. I stood up. The offer expires in 48 hours. I gathered my papers and walked toward the door. Dad's voice stopped me. Sir, wait. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We didn't see. We didn't understand what you were building. I turned back. Dad, I love you. All of you. But I stopped needing your approval a long time ago. I built this because I saw opportunity and I had the courage to pursue it. Your doubt didn't stop me. Your dismissiveness didn't slow me down. And your belated pride now doesn't change anything. What do you need from us? Mom asked quietly. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have my properties, my business, my life. You have your note payments, which will continue on schedule, and your retirement security. We're good. Then why offer Jason the job? I looked at my brother, slumped in his expensive suit, defeated. Because despite everything, I remember who helped me move into my first apartment. I remember who taught me to drive. And I remember a version of Jason who wasn't so focused on appearing successful that he forgot to actually build something real. I paused. That Jason, the real one, might still be in there somewhere. This job is a chance for him to find out. I left them there in Dad's study, surrounded by shattered assumptions and property records that told a story they'd never bothered to ask about. Jason called me 36 hours later. His voice was quiet, stripped of its usual bravado. I'll take the job. On your terms. Report Monday at 9 a.m. to my Summit County office. Dress code is business casual. We'll start with 3 properties in Breckenridge. You'll shadow me for 2 weeks before taking over any independent duties. Okay. And Jason, this is your one chance. You threaten me, undermine me, or try to claim credit for my work and you're done. We'll be employer and employee. Nothing more. I understand. And Sarah? Thank you. Don't thank me. Prove you were worth the risk. He did. 3 months in, Jason's managing 5 properties, implementing systems I taught him and earning his salary. He drives a used Toyota now. The BMW got repossessed. Turns out it was leased beyond his means. Rebecca quietly filed for separation last month. Apparently, she married a successful consultant, not a property manager working for his younger sister. Mom and Dad have been calling more frequently, asking questions about the business they never wanted to understand. I answer politely but briefly. They'll get their note payments. They'll get holiday visits. But they won't get the daughter who needs their validation anymore. That daughter grew up the moment she signed those property deeds in 2019. I'm 34 now, sitting in my modest Summit County cabin, one of the few properties I kept off the investment portfolio because it's mine in a different way. Through the window, I can see the mountains where my grandfather first saw opportunity 50 years ago. He built something from nothing. So did I. The difference is I did it while everyone assumed I was failing. And that, more than the $55 million in equity or the $4.8 million in annual income, is the part that truly satisfies me. I wasn't hiding my success. I was building it. While they were watching Jason, I was becoming the legacy my grandfather actually intended. Not the eldest male heir, but the one willing to work for it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's succeeding so completely that their opinions stop mattering entirely. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Jason. Property showing at 2 p.m. went great. Potential tenant, Fortune 500 exec, wants 6-month corporate lease. Ran the numbers like you taught me. Looks solid. I smile and text back. Send me the comps and credit check. If it looks good, you can approve it yourself. 3 dots appear then. Really? You're ready. Trust yourself. Because that's the thing about power reversals. They're not just about the moment of revelation. When Dad's hands shook reading those property records, when Jason's face went pale, when Mom's coffee cup shattered on the floor. They're about what you build afterward. And I'm just getting started.